Belgium, from KU Leuven.
University of Basel, Switzerland.
From University of Gießen in Germany.
Geneva.
I'm from New Zealand, but originally from Mexico.
Australia.
Australia, Canberra, Australia.
Italy.
I'm from Toulouse in France.
Well, I'm from Geneva.
Los Angeles, California.
I'm from Austria.
I'm also from Austria. It was the first time in Vienna in 1994 at CompStat, and from then on almost every 2 years I joined CompStat.
It's one of the conferences where we find very good presenters, very good topics combined in one large conference, and this is why I like being here.
Computational statistics is probably one of the most important and driving field, not only statistics but all in the computational world. Nowadays everything relies on that, and so it's very important not only for the field of statistics, econometrics, economics, but it's much more important for even other fields like genomics and medicines and so on.
So far I tried to keep the number of unhappy participants as small as possible. From now on I will make every effort to avoid that this number increases.
Most of you are members of the International Association for Statistical Computing, the ISC, which is an association within the International Statistical Institute, but also there are many of you who are not. So roughly you are about 500 participants, and I think this shows how important CompStat is. And still, such a conference, which has been run since 40 years now, still is able to gather 500 members. So I think this is very interesting.
I wish you a good conference, a good week conference, and again, welcome in Geneva.
So we are really at the frontier of research, and that's the main reason why these kind of conferences are well attended, from people coming from many different countries, from different areas, also research areas. Don't find only people from economics or from statistics, or people also from application, from more theoretical oriented and so on. So that's why it's very interesting, and it's growing, I think. The whole field is growing, and the conferences are growing with that.
Well, I always go to CompStat. I've been going to CompStat since 1998.
CompStat has always some kind of structure like this, and I regularly go to CompStat, so I find it interesting. Yeah.
Because they're very interdisciplinary, for instance on longitudinal studies, but also on multivariate statistics and regression models. So they cover a broad field of statistics, and that's the main point of this event, I guess.
Sorry about that. I tend to get excited when lecturing.
The problem I'm considering today actually says that the number of predictors, P, is potentially very large. And the question is, how can we identify those active covariates? Okay. Now that's a much stronger requirement that regardless of, you have lots of models. One of the major challenges for Bayesian model selection is the number of models that you are possibly considering is too large.
What this idea of max stability, this first equation, gives us is a mathematical basis for extrapolation.
I think you should expect, in homogeneous data, you should expect unwanted variation, batch effects, and you should do something, and this is one way how you can try to address these issues.
Well, it's not a small conference, so there's a lot of people here, and I'm working on robust statistics, and I know that there's a lot of people that always come here from like the professors, so that you can make your work a bit more known and also meet people and discuss ideas.
The CompStat conference has been excellent in that you've been able to network with both young statisticians, so there's a large number of young statisticians at similar career stages to myself, but also you get to talk to the more senior statisticians who hopefully are going to give me a job in the future. So, yeah.
Well, I was the founding editor-in-chief of Computational Statistics and Data Analysis, CSDA, and that introduced me to CompStat. So I've been every year coming to the CompStat or the CSDA meetings, and it's been my pleasure.
After it provided, obviously under certain conditions, after you've generated the process, the bottom ones don't contribute anymore, so you can stop simulating, provided that the process is sufficiently bounded.
It's very interesting, many fields, but all presentation very good. And I had to go from one session to another because it was very interesting.
We need, please, is there somebody out there who can do this? Really accurate and fast approximations to normal distributions, t-distributions in really high dimensions. 1,000 will do very nicely, please.
And I'm also a musician, and I wrote the anthem for the IASC, which is something like statistical computing, this is the age, blah, blah, blah. And my wife wrote the lyrics, and that triggered a tune. And the tune goes da 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 da. Yeah, that's great. I'll have you sing it the next time.
It's a conference that has been running for 40 years by now, so in spite of the fact that nowadays we have conferences almost every day, this conference is nice because still it's being run every 2 years, and we always have between 400 and 500 people coming to this conference. So computational statistics was something very new 40 years ago, now which was quite different from mathematical statistics at the time. But now I would say that almost any statistician does some computational stuff. We have these data scientists, but I would say that since 40 years we call it computational statisticians. So it's nice because we were somehow a little group. They were a little group 40 years ago, because I was almost not even born 40 years ago. It was a small group, but I would say somehow pioneer in what they were doing 40 years ago, and now it's becoming something very fashionable and something that every statistician does. So I think this is really what makes CompStat almost a brand for a conference in statistics.